Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Choice, Change, and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas, and today I have a special guest, Ava Pandit. So, welcome, Ava.
Thank you, Simone. I'm so honored to be here.
Aw. Well, it's interesting how it came about for me to ask you to come on here because, how long have you actually been using Access Consciousness tools? Let's start with that.
I mean, since 2011, I suck at math, but
2011.
I think, yeah, 14 years and stuff. I mean,
Wow.
terribly, imperfectly, but using the tools.
Yeah. Oh, hey. You get it when you get it, and you hear it when you hear it. And that is one of my favorite things about Access Consciousness is it's you choosing. It's like what
Yeah.
actually works for you. Like one of the things I'm always talking about is please enjoy your choices. It's not about getting it right, and it's not about judging yourself as wrong. Like really coming out of judgment and knowing that there is always a different possibility. Like even today I woke up and I was like, I've got this like anxious energy, like I could almost call it moving into stress mode. And I was like, no, it's not mine. I know that. And also, I called, a friend of mine, Megan Hill, who I work with, and I was like, hey, have you got a moment? And we both chatted about a bunch of things. And by the time we got off the phone, we were more ourselves and more
Mm.
like walking this road of possibilities. Because I know it's not mine when you wake up and you're anxious. And, one of the tools we have in Access Consciousness is called Who Does This Belong To, which is amazing. And I also needed to have a conversation about a few different things and be in question. And for me, it's like, I mean, I've been using Access Tools for 25 years and it just keeps getting better and better and greater and more of myself and more different. So I heard you on a call. I think it was one of Gary's, was it Creative Edge? It was Creative
It was
Edge call.
creative edge.
Yeah, and so if you don't know, guys listening, there is a monthly membership called the Creative Edge, and it's myself, Gary, and Dane. Although pretty rare that you get all three of us, but you usually get at least two of us. Sometimes you get three, and you get this call with us once a month, and there's a whole lot of clearings that you receive, and little bits and pieces, etc. So I heard Ava on this call, and one of the things that she was talking about is, one of the tools of access that includes a whole bunch of tools, and that is the 10 keys to
Mm.
total freedom. If you're watching, you can see I'm holding a book up. If you're just listening, then we will have all of these details in the show notes as well. But you can go to the YouTube channel and check us out if you desire. So, the 10 Keys to Total Freedom is a book written by Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and Dr. Dane Heer, the co creator. Now, a little bit of history. When this came out, I remember
Mm.
when Gary called it the 10 Commandments.
Right.
Basically, like, I mean, I grew up a Christian. So it's like, I grew up with that, Moses finding the tablets and blah, blah, blah. And then he called it the 10 Commandments. And it was supposed to be funny because the whole idea is and we will go through them, if you use these 10 tools, these 10 commandments, it's like they literally are the tools to your freedom. And then
Mm.
people started to get upset, and that was funny at that stage. So Gary went, okay, we'll do the 13 commandments. And he included another three, which I can't remember what they were, but they were basically repeating some of the other ones. And then I love
Mm.
Gary. He goes, fuck it. He goes, they're just the 10 commandments. If people want to be offended, they can be offended. And this book is from a conversation, like a telecall, a class that Gary and Dane did quite some time ago, which totally changed my perspective on so many things. For example, like competition. Um,
Mm.
and this book has been created from that. So again, it's the 10 Keys to Total Freedom. And that's what Ava and I are going to talk about. So I want to ask you, first of all, you were telling me beforehand, before we press record, that this is your go-to tools.
Mhm.
When did you discover the 10 keys? And tell me a little bit about a history about how
Yeah.
you work with it, use it, discovered it, all of that and more.
Right. It'd be hard to say when exactly, but I'm pretty sure in the first few months of finding access, which, by the way, like when I first took I remember the first bars class that I took was the first bars class ever offered in my city. And I had no idea why I'm going to this class. I just knew that I had to be there. And so I showed up, and yeah, we ran bars and stuff. And I was very, very skeptical of a lot of things, very open minded as well. So it was really funny. But I remember that I was like, yeah, I got my bars run. That felt interesting. But there
Mm.
were two things that really stayed with me. One was our light and heavy tool, which is basically the recognition that anything that's true for you will always have a sense of lightness and expansiveness. And if there's anything that's heavy, essentially there's something that's not true for you. There's maybe all of it is a lie, maybe there's some lie attached there, but it's not accurate for you. And so that instantly landed when I heard that in the bars class. And I was like, oh my God, my life makes sense now. There were so many choices I'd made up till that point that defied logic. People would make me wrong. I would make myself wrong. But it just seemed like at some points, I just had to make a choice that defied all logic. But I
Yeah.
just had this knowing that I have to do this. And so that light and heavy just landed in my body. And then second one was, how does it get any better than this? I'm like, oh my God, brilliant. Why didn't anybody teach me this question growing up? And so for like 4 or 5 months after that, I just rolled with it. I'm like, I'm going to follow the light, and I'm just going to keep asking, how does it get any better than this? And then the universe will present me some possibilities, and then I'll just choose the lightest, and I'll be like, how does it get any better than this? And I remember just like I took my first bars class in October, and I remember it was February of the following year. And I looked back, I was bored, basically. And so I was
Yeah.
like, what's going on? And then I found a sheet of paper where I'd set 2 year goals for myself. And I realized I checked off every single one of them. And that was when I was like, wait a second, what just happened here? How did this occur? And then I looked back and I'm like, wow, the only thing different I did was like proactively started following the lightness and started asking how does it get any better than this. So I was like, now I'm interested, what was that bars thing that we learned? And so that's how I did my second set of classes. And then immediately after that, this was back in India, and immediately after that we had a whole set of, the first level two, the foundation class, and then the first level two and three back then, now choice for possibilities class. So somewhere in that mix, I picked
Yeah.
up this book. I think it's for sure. I don't have my copy here, or I would have showed you. It's literally like it's just about to fall out into like a gazillion pieces because I've read it so many times. It's my favorite book. It's usually just always on my nightstand. And it just like Simone was saying, some epic conversations between Gary and Dane, some that I'd never heard and never even thought about, but when I heard them, when I read them, they would just land in the similar way that the light and heavy tool did in my space, and I'd be like, yes. So ever since that, I've been a huge fan. If anything's not working, I know there's something in that book that's going to help me. Some of my go-to keys are like the question, would an infinite being choose this? And so like that to me sometimes what I it's my one of my first go-tos is to look at, wait a
Yeah.
second, I'm an infinite being, I made this choice of embodiment, I'm here, and so I'm making this wrong for what reason? Even the choices that I was making. So a lot of my journey has started from like sort of getting out of the wrongness of me. And these tools were like pivotal in that.
Thank you so much. The thing that I love about Access to and Ava is like I've been using the tools for 25 years. And like I said before, you get it when you get it and you hear it when you hear it. And sometimes you have to get it again and rehear it again. Like this morning, before I met up with you, I've been having a few different meetings and conversations about schedule. And there's like one thing that I have in my schedule that in truth is heavy, like you were saying, like it's just like it doesn't match the energy of everything else. And I went, are we trying to make this work because it's in the schedule rather than choose something different? And I
Mhm.
love the way you said, I just wrote that down, you're proactive to follow the lightness. Guys, if you're listening to this, whether you've been to a billion access classes or you've been to none, even just that one tool that Ava shared with you is being proactive to follow the lightness. Like, even if you look at like this reality is got so many expectations and projections of you. Sometimes a lot of, people verbally, like maybe your family has expectations and projections of you. A lot of the times it's energetic as well. And it's those energetic ones that sort of start to screw you up a little bit, because you can perceive an energy, but it's not verbal. And you've learned to listen to the verbal, but guys, start listening to the energy. And all of this is about also listening to the energy and following that. It could be as simple as, this weekend there's a party that you're, or a dinner invitation or something like that, that you're, been invited to. There's an energy that of there's enthusiasm where you're like, oh, Saturday night, that's going to be fun. Can't wait to see those people and blah, blah, blah. Or that you're like, oh, I really don't want to do that. All I want to do is hermit and binge watch Netflix or something like that. Ask yourself, what are you aware of? And also it can go into many different questions. It's like, would it create greater if you went, etc. But you know what works for you. And we keep trying to choose against that. We keep trying to choose what works for somebody else rather than what works for us. And I think the 10 Commandments are such a great way to bring you to that total presence with you and your body, because you and your body, that's what's together. You could be in a relationship, you could have kids, husband, whatever, but it's you and your body that is together all the time, right? So it's like, what sort of embodiment, what greatness are you creating together? So let's go through the 10 Commandments, and then just, if you've got a story or anything you want to talk about with each of them, let's go. So number one, we have asked, which you've already mentioned, is, would an infinite being truly choose this? So what does that mean to you, and how have you used that?
I really want to start with that one from a different point of view, because I use that tool wrong, and I'm going to say that in quotes, but I'm essentially, what I mean by that is I used to gaslight myself left, right, and center with that one. And over years, I've learned to use it in a way that actually works. So
it's a bit more gentler than gaslighting yourself and judging yourself.
Exactly. And so earlier, when I would ask myself these kind of questions, like, would an infinite being choose this? Let's say I'm procrastinating one day. I'm going to say that procrastinating also in air quotes right here. But let's say I'm not doing what I thought I should be doing a given day. And I used to be like, would an infinite being choose this? No. And then I turned that as a reason and excuse to judge myself for my current choice.
Wow. Okay. So you're using the tool against yourself rather than actually creating something greater. Okay.
Exactly.
That's what not to do, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly. Until I so clearly remember this, like years ago, I had this moment of like, wait a second, would an infinite being judge anybody choosing this? And I was like, wow, that is where I'm not being an infinite being, not in what I'm doing, not doing, but in the ways that I'm judging myself. I'm being such an asshole to myself. So, like, one of my most favorite tools, aside from gazillion others, everything else, but more particularly the 10 keys we're talking about here, is like 5 elements of intimacy. And like, ever since I first heard them, I made it the mission of my life. It still is to have that with me. And so, like, to me, that piece of like how much I was using the tools that are designed to make me free as a reason and a justification to, in insidious, not so obvious ways, judge myself. Like, nobody else would be able to tell, but I know what's my truth in a given moment. So to me, that's something that I always really like to highlight, that if there's anyone out there who uses these tools or asks these questions, and maybe the right answer would be no, infinite being wouldn't choose this, but then you start gaslighting yourself with that, or start like doing the spiritual bypassing with these tools, please just stop that. Maybe take one step back and ask, like, would an infinite being judge anyone making that choice?
So let me just catch everyone up on something, because I know 5 Elements of Intimacy is one of my favorite tools. If anyone's been to any of my classes or podcasts, I do talk about it a lot, but because you mentioned it, I'm just going to go through that.
Yeah.
The 5 Elements of Intimacy, and I actually have a telecall coming up on that as well in a couple of months. So I love it because I just use it with everything.
Yeah.
But start with you. 5 Elements of Intimacy with you. So as Ava is saying, you're asking the question of, would an infinite being truly choose this? If you're functioning from the 5 Elements of Intimacy, which is gratitude, trust, honor, allowance, and vulnerability, and you have that with you, then there is no judgment. So as you ask that question, would an infinite being truly choose this? You're not asking it from gaslighting yourself or judging yourself. You're asking it from a bigger space. And I think that's one of the key elements too, like what you said right at the beginning, is like following that lightness. As you ask these questions, if there's more space that opens up, yeah, okay, then there's no judgment. But if you're asking a question and it's got this like clunky, funky, like closed in focus energy, are you going to a conclusion? Which so many people love to choose conclusions, because then they have like this necessity energy in their world rather than rather than awareness. And awareness is not, it's not the stability that we're taught, work it out. What's your future going to be? What are you doing tomorrow? What's this? Da, da, da. Like, we're taught to go to conclusion. We're not taught to function from question, function from your awareness, and allow this space of infinite possibilities. And that's what using these 10 keys to freedom really gives you. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the second one is everything is just an interesting point of view. So have you, like, one of the tools that Gary and Dane talk about a lot is using this tool for 6 months. Have you ever done that?
I'd say I've attempted to. I've terribly done that.
You do it and you forget. But hey, it's not about judging that you forgot. It's like, just keep going.
Yeah. And with that question also, like, most of the times, I think this is also something that I use a lot. I didn't realize it, because I usually like turn it into like a question of like, isn't that interesting that I'm looking at like this? Isn't that interesting that this person is like just said that to me? And isn't that interesting that I had that reaction? Like, I've like that way of, but it's essentially that interesting point of view. I have this point of view, or interesting point of view, they have this point of view. But my goodness, what true freedom when you stop getting pulled into like the stories and projections and judgments that are kind of like, that's what a lot of what mankind world is about. And you have something that you can just use to unhook yourself from that and be like, wait a second, I don't have to go with this like flood of whatever is being thrown at me, but I can actually be bigger than this, get out of it, and like have the space of me. Wow.
I love that. And I just want to say too, I've seen people use this tool against as well, because they'll do this thing of going, because the whole idea of everything is just an interesting point of view of when you hear something. Like, if we look at the world at the moment, like when I said I woke up this morning and had this like anxious energy, well, it's not mine, it's the world's, right? And that's what's being projected by governments, by our so-called leadership, like all this sort of thing. So what if you were interesting point of view? Like, if you put your energy on where you currently live right now, your governments, etc., and just like, how much do you want to fight and you want to resist and react? That's not actually going to create anything greater. But if you are being interesting point of view, you have more space, you have more awareness, you have more possibilities to choose. And somehow we've misidentified that we have possibilities to choose when we try and conclude. It's not true. It's the exact opposite. So I have seen people do this, like, oh, interesting point of view. And I'm like, no, that's just being a bitch. Okay. It's like, it's like, if you really use these tools, as Ava was saying, for you and be true to you, you will create, as Gary and Dana said, to total freedom. Okay. So everything is just an interesting point of view. So the next one is living in 10-second increments. What's that? Can you explain that tool to everyone, and what does that mean like for you?
Yeah, living in 10 seconds increment to me is like giving yourself the freedom to live in the moment. And this is not to say that you forget about creating your future, you're just in the now meditating in the caves. That's not what it is. It's about, like, even in the engagement of creation of your future, you always give yourself the permission to change your mind, like if that's where the energy is going. Because so many times, like, I've done that too, where I would like decide something, and then like Simone, you were sharing earlier that there's something on the schedule, and you're like, wait a second, it's not really creating a lot of space for me. Why are we doing this? So
Mm.
a lot of times that's where the living in 10-second increments, I mean, it has so many different applications as well, but this is one of the ones that really pops, that what if you can change your mind? Like, has anything
Yes.
ever in the world taught you that it's okay to change your mind? Or has all your education upbringing been about make up your mind and just roll with it?
Yeah.
Which, there again, there's subtleties here. There's a difference between committing to something versus making up your mind, because like a lot of that gets muddled up together, because you are committed to something when you are creating your future, or like you might even be committed to consciousness or not, doesn't matter, but there's something that you're committed to, maybe a point of view or whatever. But when we get so caught up in those commitments in terms of making up our mind and solidifying them, that devoids us the freedom of space we could have on the journey. So it's like literally in any given 10 seconds, you have the permission to change your mind. You can make a
Yeah.
different choice. And the
Yeah.
beauty of that is that, let's say you're having a frustrating moment, you can have as many 10 seconds you want staying frustrated. That means nothing. That doesn't mean that your day has gone bad. Doesn't mean anything if you don't make it. So like that's the freedom of having the 10-second increment of choice, that you can choose anything and then change your mind whenever, and be
Yeah.
kind to
I love
yourself.
that. And let me give you a few examples as well that I use
Yeah.
and that I've seen. Is one is like you said, frustrated. Like if I not it doesn't occur so much anymore, but if I get angry about something, instead of judging that I'm angry, I'm like, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy being angry about this, like rah, and have a rant, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done. Whereas before, I used to hold on to that anger, suppress it, try and disguise it, all of this stuff, but I would make it so real and true. Whereas now it's almost like I'm laughing at myself at the same time as I'm just like, rah, being angry. And then I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm over it. It's too much energy. It's too much hard work to stay angry. Let's choose something different. So that's one example. Another example is movement of my body. Like so many times, like you're going to go to the gym, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, all this stuff, rather than going, okay, I might go to the gym, I might go for a run or go for a walk or something, but knowing when, like listening to your body too, and knowing when it's like, okay, my body's done. It's like if I'm going for a hike, and it's like I always say to my body, okay, so we're going for a hike because there's a hike I can do near home. I don't have to drive anywhere, but we have to go back, right? So you tell me when you're done, that we can do the rest. And I can hear my body so often just go, okay, time to turn around. And I'm like, really now? Like a little kid. And that my body's like, yeah, now. And I'm like, okay. But it's like choosing in 10-second increments, not what you've set out to do. So the other way I use this tool too is I wake up and I'm very creative in the morning. Like I'm much more of a morning person than a nighttime person. But I also over the years have had this like, okay, what am I doing? Like this. And I have educated myself and to go, okay, it's not about the doing, it's what can I be. So I used this tool for more, like so many days, morning after morning, going, okay, this 10 seconds, what am I choosing? Because most of us have some ritual, like I have a shower, I get a coffee, I look at my phone, I do this, rather than going, okay, this 10 seconds, including my body, what would you like? And quite often now when I'm at home, I can hear my body say, let's go to the backyard. Just go stand in the backyard and check out the food forest that I have there. 1 minute, 5 minutes, something. But change it up, because 10-second increments is so good for not having this culture of a ritual that you choose each day. Like it's Saturday, that's what means what? It's Wednesday, that means what? It's Tuesday, that means what? No, what if none of that meant anything and you chose in 10-second increments? Even as
I
we're
love
talking about it, you can perceive this lightness to it. which I
Yeah.
love, as Ava mentioned, being proactive to following the lightness.
I love that. And the way you were sharing this, Simone, really got me to see how essentially this tool really pulls us out of the autopilot and
Yeah,
makes that more present in our lives, which is so
yeah,
amazing. I love
yeah,
that.
absolutely. So the next one, number 4, is living as the question, not the answer. So, Ava, were you taught to be in question growing up or to have the answer?
No, I was discouraged from asking questions. I was always told you asked way too many questions, just shut up. Which I kind of get, like I can get that could have been annoying for, some people, but at the same time, sometimes like adults just don't have that bandwidth when you're like this mega being and adults are like so caught up, and especially the ones who never had this education that we get to choose.
Yeah.
They just cannot handle that, and then they want to just shut you up. I mean, not because they hate you, sometimes they do even, but it's just like that's how it is. And so I was always told, yes, way
I
too
got
many
it.
questions.
Let's actually look at that for a second, because I know I remember when I used to ask questions all the time too, and I think so many of us kids did, and then we got shut down. But my
Mhm.
mother was always like, because I said. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, why? Because you said. Like, I needed more information, right? So
Right.
I'm going to give you a tool. If you're a parent and you do have a kid that asks a lot of questions, please don't shut them down, or anyone. But what you can do is you can flip it and you can say to them, well, what do you know?
Mm.
Like, ask them a question, because you don't, like, as a kid is that, or anyone is asking a question, it doesn't mean you have to have an answer. What if you also had a question? And that is living in the question. So it's not like I'm talking to Ava about something and asking her questions. She doesn't have to come up with an answer. It's the beauty of that is for both of us to keep asking each other questions. And then you're like, oh, something pops over here. And you're like, yeah, let's choose that. Or there's this. So you allow that, like, I call it like an extrapolation. There's just so much of everything everywhere. Like, if you look at all the stars and the planets and galaxies and everything, and they're all a possibility, as you being questioned, one of them will be like, hey, me. And you go, oh, okay, let's play over here. And it allows, again, more space and more freedom.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. Like, I always look at this that a lot of times people use, again, I'm going to say in quotes, science to like debunk or, even dismiss their awareness and knowing those kind of conversations. But a true scientist never gives up a question. He's living, breathing question. Like
Yeah.
Einstein, he was questioning his own theories all the time. So,
Yeah.
like, there you go.
Socrates was a big believer in question everything, you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
So live in the question, not as the answer. So number 5 is no form, no structure, and no significance. So what
Yeah.
is that for you? Can you explain that, and how have you used that as well?
Well, I remember hearing this from Gary in my very first Now Choiceful Possibilities class. He said that when you make something significant, it controls you.
Yeah.
And I still get chills as I say it out loud because I'm like, wow, I have found that to be so accurate over and over and over. Even something as simple as if I make my car significant, oh my God, my amazing car, it starts to literally control me. Now I'm like worried about what to do. Did someone is there a scratch on there? So like this is something that's so insidious, like no form, no structure, no significance. Like it's once again one of the tools that we can twist around and use against ourselves very easily, but hopefully we're able to share with you the energy of what it's actually meant to create in your life, because anything that you make significant starts to control you. Your relationship, if that's what's significant, guess what you're ruled by. And so that to me
It's
is
true.
like one of the biggest things I've received from this key.
So let's give 2 examples. You mentioned one relationship, so true. Like, if you go, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my partner, they mean everything to me. Like, I don't know what I would do without them. Like, any of those lines that you have, please have a look at that, because it's like you should be. I mean, this is a whole that's goes into relationship, done different classes, etc. But if you are in a relationship and you're making it significant, as Ava said, it will control you. You will not have infinite choice. Like, if you're in a relationship, you should be choosing it because it's fun. You enjoy it. You are creating at least 20 times more with that person, whether it's a colleague or a friend or a lover, etc. Not because you need it. If you have that sense of need, then or that they matter, then that's doing form, structure, and significance. And the other example I have is money. And I've had such I've got such a history with money. I've, done it all. I've been in debt. I've been poor. I've avoided it. I've disdained it. I've loved it. I've made it significant. I've had, all of it. I've got a history of money big time, And I remember at one point, I had a chunk of cash in my hand that I had earned. It was mine. And I was in Europe, and Dane looked at me and he said, when are you going to let yourself receive that? And I went, what are you talking about? And he went, that's your money. And he went, but it's sitting in your hand, and have you received it? And I was like, no. And I wasn't receiving any money that I was creating. I was making it something that was outside of me. I was making it significant in the way of, I can prove I don't need it. And I was doing everything I could to prove that I could exist without money, rather than having this communion with money and going, wow, look at this. Cool. I just received this money. This becomes a contribution to me, and I can also receive more money. But I was making money so significant that I was pushing it away from me to go, see, I don't need it. And it's like, none of it was creating anything greater. And I'll never forget that moment. And I was sitting in a car, and I was just like, wow. And I looked at it, and it was one of the scariest things in the world at that moment, to go, what would happen if I just received this money? And it had this sense, Ava, of being so out of control, that if I just received money, because I was trying so hard to control my life, control my choices by proving that I didn't need this thing that I had made so significant, which was money. So it's like, how many of you are making money so significant that you literally refuse to receive it? Or you make relationships or sex so significant, so you literally refuse to receive it. So everything at that is times a gazillion, where you destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100, shorts, boys, perverts, creations, bases, and beyonds. That is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more at theclearingstatement.com.
Yeah, we have an amazing video of somebody and with Dr. Dane, which is, Simone and Dane made this epic video about the clearing statement, which is just, I'd encourage you to listen to it if you haven't yet.
Thank you. Yeah, I had never watched it, actually, to tell you the truth. I just filmed it. So, but Max, who edited it, he's brilliant. So I know he probably did a really good job of it. So, and Dane and I can be quite the entertainers when we choose. So, okay. So the next one, number 6, don't forget 10 keys to total freedom. Number 6 is no judgment, no discrimination, and no discernment.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for you?
Whenever I hear this one and have conversations around this one with people, no judgment, no discrimination, everyone gets. No discernment, they're like, what do you mean? Aren't you supposed to discern between good and bad? And like, how you're supposed to navigate if you don't have a good discernment? So I'd be curious, Simone, how would you respond to that?
Well, for me, and I want to say too, these 10 keys, they're not separate from each other. The way I look at them is they hold hands with each other. Okay. So you can't just go, well, you can, but you pick one, they sort of bleed into each other. So for me, that no discernment also really plays well with interesting point of view. Because if you are functioning from interesting point of view, then you're not going to have this discernment that you're supposed to have. Like you said, it's like this reality says, you're supposed to have a point of view about so many things. Why? Yeah. Like, who says, like, I hardly watch any news. I do have like something that pops up on my phone every now and then, but I just don't, because it's like every time I watch it nowadays too, I'm like, my God, it's just filled with like manipulation and lies and bullshit and everything. It's like, what's actually really going on? But what it creates for me is this, I'd say news, etc., and media is so much of judgment, discrimination, and discernment. And it sort of puts it on you, like, here's what your point of view should be. And for me, nobody should be telling you what your point of view is. I mean, as an example, if you use sex as an example, and how many times people will go, oh, well, that's perverted. Do you know the only thing that creates a perverted point of view is your judgment, is your discrimination, is your discernment, right? It's like if you were an interesting point of view and you had infinite choice, oh, yeah, you do, but we keep trying to prove that we don't, then none of this would matter. It's like, what, who or what are you making matter that doesn't? And, one of the things I remember when I first started Access, Ava, and my mother, not the kindest woman in the world, that's for sure. And she said to me, ever since you've started Access, you have no emotions. And I went, I'm not reacting to everything that you would like me to react to. I'm not. I'm actually being calmer. I'm more relaxed. And if you look at, the people around you, if you're listening to this, people are more comfortable and familiar when you choose judgment and you choose upset and you choose emotions, because then they can now confine you, they can define you, they can put you in a box. Whereas when you show up somewhere and you have this sense of joy and this sense of just gratitude for being alive and living, there's no definition to that. That can't be defined. And there's when you function from joy and gratitude, judgment can't exist, right? So you have this playfulness. It freaks people out because they don't know what to do with you. They're like, are you on drugs? What happened? Are you da-da-da? And it's like, oh, now she's losing it. No, I'm not losing it. I'm becoming more of me. So my question to all of you listening to this now and in the future, would you like more of you, or would you like to comply to this reality? I know what I'm choosing. I know what Ava's choosing. And you don't have to fight for it. Trust me, I've tried to fight for me. You don't need to. You just need to choose it.
I hear you. Oh boy, I've been one of those people who once upon a time fought for peace until I realized what an oxymoron that is.
Yeah.
So yeah, but so beautifully said. I love that. And there's just so much judgment it takes in discernment. I grew up in a very righteous family. My parents are like really good people. Like, I love them so much, and they genuinely are good people. But sometimes I wonder, like, how much judgment do you have to live in of yourself, of your choices, of everything that you do, don't do, in order to be good, quote unquote. And there's so many assumptions underneath that. And I used to be like this weird person in my family, in my culture, even growing up, because I'm like, everyone used to be like, you have the best parents. And I'm like, I feel like I'm living in a cage. I mean, love you, mom and dad. But rightness is such a weird, it takes a lot of discernment and judgment in order to make sure that you're doing the right thing. And it was killing me, like, literally. And so the freedom beyond this, it's still unraveling in my world, but it's priceless.
Well, if you look at, you grew up in Delhi, India, right? And I have an interesting relationship with India. Like, the first time I went, I was 15 years of age, and I went to a what do you call it? I think Meher Baba place in near Pune called Amanagar. When I was 15, because my father did business with the Meher Baba lovers. Like, we had clothing distribution, all this sort of stuff. So I was 15 years of age when I first went there. And so I have this weird relationship with India, and I've been there a lot. Like, I used to do business there a lot. And one thing I noticed you had the caste system, which was literally a legal thing in India, was the caste system. So what does that mean? It's like you basically can't move career-wise or family, like relationship-wise, outside of your caste system. It was considered not appropriate, okay? So, because I always remember there was the guy because I used to stay in Delhi and Pahaganj, and there was this old guy. He was so sweet, and he would sell padlocks, right, in the main street of Pahaganj. He'd have his padlock stand every day. I'd go there like 2-3 times a year. And then I met his son, and his son was going to take over selling the padlocks, right? And that was just what happened. Like, you just, it's not like his son, what would you like? It's like, no, this is what you do. This is the family business. This is how far you go. Now, what India did was they they took away the caste system, like legally. But they didn't. It's like it still exists. It's like it's just not legal anymore, but it's still there. And that is a level of judgment, discrimination, and discernment that's quite, horrifying. And it's like, but my question is, if you are in a country, a city, or whatever, it starts with you. Like, what if all of us just ask, what can I be in the face of judgment, discrimination, and discernment? Like, what can you be? Because it's not about resisting and reacting to it either. Like, another thing I grew up with, Ava, was my mother was extremely racist. So, but I grew up like your mum. You grew up and it's like your mum, right? It's like, isn't she supposed to know everything? And she was only racist against particular people. Like, she was very funny. And so Asians were something that she was very racist about. But she'd always say, oh, those Asians, those bloody Asians. And so as a kid, I would go, what did the Asians do? Because obviously they must have done something. If we don't like them, they've done something, And my mother would yell at me for fighting her. But I was always so confused. What did the Asians do? Why are we not supposed to like them? And it took me quite some time, like I'm going to say early teens, before I went, oh, my mother is just extremely racist, right? And I just didn't, I'm so grateful. I just didn't have that in my world. Like what color is your skin, what shape are your eyes, or how much money you have in your bank account. I've seen people be racist and discriminate against poverty or against wealth as well. I had a friend many years ago said to me, are you still seeing this person? And I said, no, I just haven't had the time. Like, I've been traveling so much. And they went, yeah, I don't see them anymore either because they earn too much money now. And I went, what? Why would you not hang out with someone because they have too much money in your world? And I was like, that's insane. So it's like, what insane point of view have you been brought up with that is about judgment, discrimination, and discernment? That's not even yours. And right now, it's like destroy and uncreate it. Times a godzillion. Right and wrong, good and bad. Pocket pods, 400 shorts, boys, probeds, creations, spaces, and beyond.
You have no idea. You've just facilitated something in my world with that.
Oh, cool. Well, you facilitated me in the first 2 minutes with that follow the lightness. I was like, damn, girl. Yes, I will. So, okay. So number 7 is no drugs of any kind.
Yeah.
We mentioned it's like that word that you're supposed to whisper.
Well, the good thing is I grew up in a good family, right? I was supposed to be a good girl, so I never went that route. And I thought this one doesn't apply to me until I realized how addicted I was to judgments and to validation and to, just doing what I think I need to do in order to be approved or received. I was never, ever, period, being at all. I was like just so busy trying to fulfill the projections and expectations I didn't even know that I was aware of. That became my addiction, is just to make people happy and just to be this good girl that everyone likes. So
that's a lot of hard work.
It was such a hard work, Simone, that it literally got me to a point of complete nervous breakdown. Like my body at one point was like, we're not doing this. You either choose something different or we're dying. So.
And I like that you mentioned addiction, because the no drugs of any kind, which is number 7, is like people get a little bit like, what does that mean? What drugs? Like what, like this. And for me, the way I look at this is, if you're addicted to something, and if you're choosing that and it's going against you and your body. Like, I mean, I did take a lot of drugs. I took a lot of drugs from an early age too, and for quite a period of time throughout my life. I was even drug dealing in Sydney at one stage because I went, that's how I started my business, to go to India, because I needed money to go and start the business. And I remember there was a surf company in Australia that their story is that they started by dealing drugs to get the funds to actually start their surf brand, right? And I went, that's a good idea. So I got some investment from 2 English guys and I started, right? And in my head, I went, I need X amount of money so I can actually start my business in going to India, etc. And I did. I made that amount of money and did that. But I was heavily involved. And for me taking drugs was different. It was because I used to look around and go, this can't be it. Like, we're living in this beautiful, amazing world, this beautiful planet, and all I can see is people getting upset about stuff and getting really like the trauma and drama and you know what we're supposed to do, and it's like, where's the joy? So when I took drugs, I went, there's the joy. You know, that's what I so used it for. And the first choice for possibilities class that I ever went to with Gary Douglas is when I stopped taking drugs. I sat in that class and he started actually talking about taking drugs, and he said, if you're taking drugs and you're choosing consciousness, it's like sitting on the edge of a fence. He said, one day you're going to be impaled. And I sat in the class and I started crying, and he had a break and he walked over and he went, are you okay? You know, it's just like weeping more so. And I went, yeah, you got me on the drug thing. And he said, it's just a choice. And I'll never forget that, because he didn't tell me I was wrong. He didn't tell me not to do it. He said, it's just a choice. Right. And I walked outside and I had a chat to myself and I went, you know what? You could just get in your car and drive. And I had a music festival to go to the next weekend, which I would have been taking drugs and, you know, live my life as I had. But there was something about Access and something about Gary that I went, what the fuck is this man talking about? You know? So I went, okay, go back in and find out. And so I did. Still didn't really hear anything he was saying, by the way, just for the record. Like, when you first go to Access classes, you may walk out and go, I have no idea what just happened. That's why we give a lot of manuals for classes. But the one thing I heard him say was, you are not as fucked up as you think you are. And I wrote that down and I went, I'm going to go with that. And I didn't take any drugs from that day. Wow. I just changed. And a lot of people used to tell me I was addicted, and I knew I wasn't. I just knew there was no other choice I could find that was matching the energy that was congruent with what I was looking for. So for me, it's like, no drugs of any kind. Yes, you can go to, you know, smoking pot or taking ecstasy or cocaine or heroin or anything like that. But for me, it's also, you know, like I love having a glass of wine. I love having a cocktail, but I'm not addicted to it. I enjoy it when I choose it. And it's like, or if it's the difference I see of people, you know, say smoking cigarettes, the ones who judge it stink. And the ones who don't. I'm always amazed. The ones who just have a cigarette and enjoy it, they don't smell like they've just had a cigarette. But the ones who are smoking and sneaking around, it's like, for me, that's it. It's like, are you creating freedom for you? You know, if there's something that you find you're addicted to, which I was talking to someone the other day and I went, I think the only thing I'm truly addicted to at the moment is coffee. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, so what I started doing was asking my body in the morning, hey, you know, do you actually want coffee? And I would always have like 2 coffees, get to think. And I'm noticing, I think the last 2 weeks, I've just had 1 coffee and I'm good. And I went, oh, that second coffee I'm always having is more because I've decided I should, not because my body's asking for it. So that's what I would say is play with this. Don't, again, how they all play together. Don't make it significant. Okay. And relax. If you're listening to this and there's some drugs that you're taking, just ask yourself, is it being a contribution? Okay. Because this is not about right or wrong. This is, again, the 10 keys to your total freedom. So I know this one can be a bit of a touchy subject for those who have taken drugs or are currently taking some form of drug. Okay.
Yeah.
Relax.
And remember that piece of like, would an infinite being judge anyone doing drugs?
Exactly. So and Gary and Dane, I'm so grateful that they didn't judge me. They just said, it's your choice.
Yeah.
And I chose. So yeah. So number 8 is no competition. Tell me what that's been like for you.
This was very enlightening for me because I used to think I don't do competition. And then I read in the book that if you have a point of view about competition, or if you ever say that person's competing with me, you are the one doing competition.
Yes. Yeah, that's it, basically. Now, I want to do another piece of information on this too, though, is I nicknamed it like creative competition. Because I'll notice if someone's choosing something, I go, oh, that's cool. And I step up, right? So, I mean, in Australia, we call it leapfrog. I don't know, it's like I choose something, you choose something. I choose something, you choose something. So it's like, for me, it's like, if you didn't look at competition as your reality, but what if you looked at out creating? So if you go, okay, I'm going to outcreate myself today, which just means that you're choosing more today than you chose yesterday. Or, you see something that Ava's choosing, and you're like, damn, that's awesome. Okay, what would it take for me to outcreate Ava? But it's not going against. It's like using her abilities, using your abilities, and choosing greater.
Yeah, I love that. This is one chapter that I've read several times, and each time I read it, like everything else in the book as well, but this particular one has been my thing that I didn't even know that I had. And so, like, and to me, it's also just recognizing one of the things that we talk about with access tools is how to make a point of view real, you're either aligning and agreeing with it or resisting and reacting to it. So, like, to make competition real, as long as I have any reaction or any sort of, intense energy around it, any charge around anybody doing whatever, I have made competition real. I'm living as an effect of that point of view in my life. So that's one of my asks. Like, it's way better. I don't nearly ever catch myself doing that as much anymore. But there are still moments where I'd be like, oh my God, this envy, this jealousy, weird thing that comes out when I saw something. And then the good thing is I have the tool, so I can read the chapter again, or I can look at, wait a second, I'm still at some point, at some level, maybe making this real. Is it real? And just like living as that question, living as that curiosity, not like, this is my next mission, how I improve myself, like self-help agenda, but like really just that gentle curiosity of like, is this the energy I'd like my life to be? And if not, how am I making it real? Like, what would it take for me to not be at an effect of this? And, like Simone said, that's a very different point of view than like competing. To outcreate something, you still include it. You're not rejecting competition, but you're being bigger than that. You're like embracing what's actually the lightness of the lightness that's true for me.
Well, and can anyone ever truly compete with you? Like, it's like it's you're an infinite being. There is nobody on the planet like you, So that was beautifully well said, Ava. I love it. So number 9 is do not listen to, tell, or buy the story.
Yeah.
And I love this one because so many people love to tell a story. And I see that people do this thing of, it's almost like they click a thing and go, oh, here's my story, number 86. Oh, one day when I was blah, 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 and they have all these stories that they tell. It's like how much is an automated system that you have to tell a story for what? So people will like you? So that you engage. What if you actually chose to be like this energy of true engagement that is being totally present with someone and being like, hey, if you had no stories, what would you talk about? What would you engage? What possibilities are available?
Yeah. And I think this is from the book. If not, I've heard it from Gary somewhere in the class about how he said that if you are stating a choice and attaching a because after it, like, I'm doing this because everything that follows that is the story you're telling yourself. So what if you do not tell, listen to, or buy stories, including your own? Don't make them real. Don't make them significant. Then what becomes available?
And you can ask yourself too, is because I love that too, because with that goes, are you justifying your choices? What if you never had to justify your choices? So as you start like blah, 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 and I'm sorry, but so many women do that. They like to share, right? And they start telling a story. Are you justifying your choice? What if you just chose? What if there is a silence that you allow yourself to be instead of filling the silence with conclusion and with answer and with story? What if you allowed yourself to listen to what else is possible? Gary Douglas was just doing a call. It was brilliant. It's called Are You Listening? And one of the things he said was, most people want to be heard, which goes with this, the story. What if you started to listen, and in that listening, you received? And as a tool, I'm going to say, go out into nature somewhere and just listen. Different possibility. So number 10 is no exclusion. So what has that been like for you? And can you talk a bit about that, Ava?
Sure. To me, it's that another thing that I forgot to mention earlier, but really stood out to me in the first bars class was when I heard how in Access we describe consciousness, which is like consciousness is that space that includes everything, judges nothing. And I was like, yes, that's the world I want to live in, where everything is included, nothing is judged. It's not like rightness 2.0. It's like, no, everything is included, nothing is judged. And so, no exclusion to me, the way that I look at it is like anywhere. I mean, there are so many ways that I look at this one. One is where am I excluding myself in the equation? Just because that used to be my pattern. Like I was so happy to abandon myself to be something else, because that's all I learned, that's the right
Wow.
thing to do. So that has been an ongoing thing, that where am I excluding myself? Am I excluding myself from this choice? Like, for example, my business right now is going through a complete transformation. Like I'm changing the platforms, just doing a lot of groundwork for a future that I am aware of and I'm so excited to play with. And somewhere in that started because I realized that the business, the way that I'm creating is based on a lot of like insidiously this reality's version of this and that, and what you should not. And the more my body started showing me that no, like I would physically contract, like forget the energetic space, my body started refusing those things that I wasn't feeling, like I wasn't, like they weren't true for me in the first place. I was just trying to make it work. It was taking so much energy. And so the whole like couple years ago is when I made that choice of like, no, I'm going to start including me no matter what it takes, no matter how it shows up. It doesn't matter if I don't even know what that means right now. And over the years and months of like choices after choices, no right choices, just choices after choices, it just came to a point where I'm like, you know what? I am gonna like not engage with the energy around the stuff with business that doesn't match the energy I'd like my life to be. And
Yeah.
that meant saying no to a lot of things. And so that whole process to me was a massive including myself in the equation of creation. And the 5 elements of intimacy that Simone shared about earlier, those to me are like all about including me. And so that's a huge piece around inclusion. Do not exclude yourself from the equation of your life and creation. And then secondly, like be willing to just look at where might you be excluding. Are you excluding money from your life? Are you excluding caring from your life? What are you excluding? And once again, none of these tools are designed to like give you a free pass to judge yourself. This is
Yeah.
just an awareness exercise so that until you know what's going on, like you wouldn't even realize there's something you could choose different. So like sometimes when you're, I like that analogy, or when you're cleaning the drain, at first it stinks. So
Yeah.
even if it stinks, even if the things that come up aren't necessarily what you would like to know, but what if you can be brutally honest with yourself enough to know where are you like excluding yourself, someone else, some energy, even emotions. Like that's another thing I see people misapply all the time, that Gary says thoughts, feelings, emotions are lower harmonics, so then that means they're wrong. No, they're not wrong. Everything is included in consciousness. It's not judged. So it's just about looking at this is possible and available, and that is possible and available. What does this create? What does that create? Which choice do I want to make?
I love that you said that because it's so true. It's like everything is included and nothing is judged, even judgment. Like we were saying before, when you get angry, it's like enjoy it. It's like if you're judging, it's like enjoy it. Like everything is included, but have a look. Is it actually working for you? And I love how broad you took that too, because it's most people go no exclusion. Oh, it's about people. That means I've got to include it. I've got to invite everyone to my party. No, you get to choose. But the initial thing when you said how much you were excluding you, it's like how much are you excluding you from your life, which it eliminates the living that you could be choosing. So yeah, thank you so much, Ava. This has been brilliant. I've had so much fun talking to you about this.
Me
Thank you.
too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we are pretty much at the end of the podcast. Is there two things? One, where can people find you? We will have all your details in the subscription notes, so don't forget to subscribe. But just quickly, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me anywhere when they search for Ava Pandit, my name, on Instagram. I'm by that name on Facebook. I've started writing Substack lately, so there. and
What's
my
Substack?
website. Oh, Substack is like, I'm also exploring, like, as my business took this pivot, I'm like, I don't want to go like in the waiting mode for this to turn around before I can do the next things. I'm like, I want to stay connected with the energies that, I want to bring more in my life. What makes me me, that kind of stuff. So I'm like on this 30-day Substack is like, I am thinking of it like kind of a blog platform where you can just
Ah,
write stuff and share with the world.
yeah,
So,
cool.
yeah, I don't know much about that other than this. And so,
Well, we
yeah.
will have that all in our show notes. And I want to say thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
this podcast is called Choice, Change, and Action as well. So I want to ask you, is there something that you're looking at currently in your life that you would like to choose, change, and what action are you looking at taking in order to actualize that?
Wow. Well, so much, so much. And, as you asked me that question, I'm realizing, had you asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have had the answer would have been from a place of lack. I don't have this, so I would like to have that. But
Wow.
now, these days, in this season of life, and that's the beauty of these tools, that when you start using them, you get there. Whenever you do, it starts to show up in a way that, there's this beautiful vision of what, like, the kind of world I'd like to see. And so, I'm making proactively choices towards that every single day. And choice, change, and action. And like I said, there's a lot of action. A lot of times the action also is like behind the scenes. So, sometimes it looks like lull on the outside, but that's like for you to know, are you choosing in the direction that you like your life and future to be?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that's going on, and I'm ever excited for.
I can see that you're bleeding into possibilities, which I love it because, as you said, a lot of times most people focus on problems. But what if you never had a problem? What if there was only ever possibilities? Like, even if you think you have a problem, ask what possibility is available here. If this wasn't a problem and it was a situation, what action would I take? There is so much more available than what we're currently choosing. And I am so enthusiastic and in for more, 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 more. So, Ava, again, thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm just going to mention I do have a 5 elements of intimacy because we spoke about it call starting on the 1st of October. And I am contemplating doing a 10 keys to freedom, like sort of based on the book class in December. So if you're interested in that, let me go. Let me know, not let me go. Let me know. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you somewhere in the world, Ava. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for being here. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Please share, write a review, do all of that. Love you. Mwah. Ciao.